So today we're talking about the Taurus G3C. Are you ready? Stand by. It's just, I think the extractor's bad on this particular gun. So welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel. I'm David and I will be your guide in pursuit of practical pistol proficiency. And today we are reviewing the Taurus G3C. So Taurus recently freshened up their G2 series of pistols with the G3, and this is the compact variant of it, noted by the C in the name. And the Taurus G2, G3 series are popular in the way that Ruger pistols are popular. That's, people are buying them, they're selling well, but nobody's telling me that they're buying them. And if you watch any of the Taurus marketing, they mention price and value a lot.
This is going to be an everyday gun. It's an affordable everyday gun. We're extremely excited to add the G3 to the Taurus lineup of firearms, but we're even more proud to be able to offer it at such an affordable price.
So while this is a pistol and you try to be as objective as you can about it, whenever a company comes right out front and says value or price, you know that they're not competing on quality, and that can sometimes be a red flag. By and large, the G2, G3 series has received pretty popular press. This isn't going to be one of those, guys. I'm sorry. So for those of you who are not subscribed to the channel, and I don't understand why you wouldn't be, I generally like to talk about what I don't like about a pistol before I get into the things that I do like, and usually those reviews are positive. Since this is going to be a negative review, and it's going to be the first of 2 reviews on this pistol, and in the literary biz they refer to that as foreshadowing, because this pistol is going to have to go back to Taurus. It is unreliable and it cannot meet its mission. This pistol is described as a concealed carry pistol, and I certainly wouldn't deploy it in that capacity based off my experience at the range. So before going all negative Nancy, let's talk about the things that I like about the Taurus G3C. So right out of the box, they're going to include 3 magazines and a value pistol positioned at about a $300 price point. That's really awesome. I really like that because buying extra magazines can normally make a pistol go from an affordable pistol with expensive magazines into just the total cost of ownership is too much. So the fact that they give you 3 magazines, which would generally be like a magazine that lives in the gun, a reload magazine if you're somebody who carries reloads, and then you would still have a magazine you could use for training, that's a pretty comfortable amount of magazines for somebody who's not shooting the gun every week. So the fact they give you 3 magazines is a tremendous value, and the magazines are honestly pretty well made. The second feature that I really like about this pistol is the sights. The sights are of extremely low profile, so it's like you're sighting down the top of the slide. The rear sight is a Glock sight cut, and it looks like the front sight could potentially take Glock sights as well. So the fact that they are opening up the market on these sights, because they realize not everybody's going to make sights for a Taurus pistol, by using Glock sights, they are effectively widening the aftermarket support, and that is a really strong move, and I really appreciate it. A+ on the sights, Taurus. These are actually great sights, and that's another piece, because this is a value pistol. Usually the sights are trash, and if you buy a $100 set of sights on a $300 gun, the value proposition is just starting to disappear in a hurry, and you don't have to. These sights are totally serviceable. Number 3 is the trigger. The profile of the trigger is totally flat across the face, and I really like it. When you get on that trigger safety, it goes completely flush, and I really like that about the pistol. So as it is, it has a nice hard wall that you can actually stage on, and that's not a bad trigger, especially in a concealed carry piece such as this. The Strike 2 system that they deploy on their striker-fired guns is sort of interesting, where when you dry fire, every time you pull the trigger, you're getting a double action only style trigger, which is kind of interesting. The trigger is very long, but if you're shooting cheap ammo, which, let's be honest, if you're shooting Taurus, you're probably shooting the cheapest stuff on the shelf. If you get a bad primer, just let it go again and you'll have it. If it is a defensive situation, you still should probably rack the round out, but that's for you to figure out. The texture on this gun is fantastic. It is one of the more aggressive grit textures that I've encountered on any concealed carry gun, and I really like it. The front strap and the back strap are very aggressively checkered, and the side grip panels where your fingers and palms sort of end up are also textured very well. So with the magazines inserted, you get 4 fingers on the pistol in about as small of a package as you can go. And that's going to be the next positive. The size that they landed on with this pistol is pretty strong. It's almost like the old M&P 9Cs, where it's bigger than, say, a Glock 26, but smaller than like a Glock 19. And that's kind of where this pistol lives. It is definitely a double stack thickness, but it has a shorter barrel and it is very suited to concealed carry based purely on the physical dimensions of the gun. And on to the next point, you're getting 12 +1 rounds out of a gun that's this big, which is about the size of my hand, a little bit longer. That's not bad at all. It is a lot of firepower in a pretty small package without paying that like SIG P365 or Springfield Hellcat type price. So this could be potentially a contender if it turns out to be reliable for that segment of pistol while being a little bit thicker. And the next bit is it comes in a cardboard box that's suitable for recycling and getting rid of. I can't stand gun caboodles and having them just stack up in the closet for the guns that just sit in the safe all the time. So I think it is excellent that they don't even tempt you to keep the box by just giving you a cardboard one, and it helps increase the value proposition of the gun, I'm sure. And this is kind of a minor one, but I still kind of like it, is on the grip panel themselves, the grip and the magazines have a depression where if the magazine was to jam, you could rip it out right there on the sides based on these little depressions they put on the sides of the mags, which is pretty forward thinking. It doesn't cost them a bunch of money to put that as a feature on the gun, but it's absent in most of the other guns on the market. So it's really forward thinking by Taurus to put that there. So what is the gun like to shoot? Well, it's a small pistol, so as you can probably imagine, it's a little bit snappy, but the excellent grip texture plants the pistol in your hand very well and it helps you mitigate that recoil to the extent that you can through the traction the pistol provides. The geometry of the pistol with the trigger guard is honestly quite good as well, so your hand really does lock onto the pistol. Be sure and let your thumb ride on the safety that they have included there, because the last thing you want is in recoil to accidentally actuate the safety like that. I'm not a big fan of safeties on striker guns, especially when the paddle's so small that you can't ride on it easily, but the safety they've provided, honestly, if you just keep your thumb resting on it, is not that big a deal. If you're shooting this with 115s, and let's be honest, you probably are, you're gonna notice the report is very, very loud. Short barrel 9mm guns have very loud reports, and this one is no exception to that. So if you're shooting at an indoor range, maybe double plug, especially if you're shooting with shooters who are more noise sensitive. The trigger, as mentioned, is the long double strike, almost like a double action only style trigger. You hit a firm wall and then you can kind of pull through. It's a very alien style trigger for those of you used to traditional striker fire triggers. So it may take some adjustment on your side to get used to that very long trigger pull with that sort of wall there. For me, as I learned how to stabilize this gun in my grip and shoot accurate groups, I noticed that the sights were actually hitting a little bit low for me with 115 grain ammo. So now we are going to dive into the things that I don't like about the pistol, and this is probably the moment you've been waiting for. But first, we need to talk about the sacred relationship between content creator and you, the viewer. I make world-class firearms content videos for you to enjoy here on YouTube. So you, while watching this video, reflect on the fact that pool season and the beach season is pretty much almost over. You're gonna squeeze in that one last trip, but your wife says before you go, you have to do something about your wretched feet. So you're gonna take her up on that pedicure that she has always insisted that you get. And while you're getting your pedicure, you're going to allow the pedicurist to paint my logo on your toenails. So while you're stomping around the beach with your freshly pedicured toes and your dad's sandals, and everyone looks at your nasty dad feet, everyone's gonna know the good work and the world-class firearms videos we're delivering on this channel. But seriously, this is gonna be your last chance to like this video before the butt hurt starts, so please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And if you like this style of content, consider supporting me over on Patreon, where there are 3 to 5 posts per week for the low price of $1 per month. So that all said, let's rustle some jimmies. So here we go. This is supposed to be a Goldilocks style gun where as many people as possible can put a hand on this gun and find a home for it. I have larger hands. I'm 6'5" and my hands are pretty big, so my hands sort of overwhelm this gun, and as a result the trigger reach is just not what I prefer, and the trigger pull is so long that it just kind of made it a little bit awkward during the getting to know you phase to figure out how I needed to stabilize the gun to get a straight to the rear trigger pull. It's totally manageable through training, it's just not my preference. The gun doesn't fit my hand that well, it's a little bit small. And you probably knew this next one was coming if you follow the channel. This gun, because it is imported from Brazil, also has the ledge right there on the frame. And it has a manual safety right there on the frame. So if you're not familiar with the channel, I've put out a video on how to stop shooting guns to the left. And don't put your thumb knuckle from your strong hand in this depression. It will make you miss shots to your support side. This is doubly concerning considering the manual safety they have on the gun, whereas if you have a bad grip, which let's be honest, a lot of people who don't train who are buying this gun are probably going to have a suboptimal grip, there is a good chance in recoil you could bump the safety on with your thumb if you're using this thumb depression that they put there just so that they can import the gun into the US. It's a dumb law, they should change it, but we're stuck with it, so we get all these import guns with this dumb depression right here on the frame. The next thing that I'm not wild about in this gun is the slide finish. It is a budget gun and I realize there has to be compromises, but this is stated as being a tinifer finish, and that makes me think of like the Gen 3 Glocks, which had an absolutely brilliant bulletproof slide finish. This feels more like it's been parkerized, and I didn't put it through a lot of holster wear because I don't have a holster for the gun. But just what I did do messing around with the gun and using it in other holsters, it's starting to show wear already. So I don't know that this is going to hold up to a bunch of in the holster, out of the holster use, but at the same time, at the price point that it is, it's not supposed to be a beauty queen. It's an everyday carry gun, so not that big a deal, just making the observation that it feels more like a parkerized finish, although it's stated as being tinifer. The slide design, look at this gun. I mean, look at it. It is probably the only gun being made in 2020 that is more boring looking when you look at the slide than a Glock. Again, it's meant to be a performer and not necessarily a beauty queen, and I totally get that. I'm on board with it. So how negative are all those issues? The small grip, I bet a lot of people are honestly gonna love it. It's gonna give a trigger reach to a lot of smaller handed shooters that a lot of people are gonna be really happy about. So I really wouldn't count that as a negative to most people, just for me. The thumb rest with the safety issue, to me that actually is a concern because it can cause malfunctions based on compromised technique, and people who don't watch videos on YouTube and just go and try and shoot a bunch of rounds are gonna take cues from the grip on how to do it. So I wouldn't be surprised if some people have issues inadvertently activating the safety by trying to put their thumb knuckle in that depression. The slide machining, total non-issue. The slide is completely functional. The serrations actually work just fine. And the travel distance of the trigger and all that stuff, the trigger's completely serviceable. It's actually not a bad trigger. But what about the reliability? Oh, that's right, I didn't mention the reliability. This gun's got major reliability issues. And before we go down this rabbit hole, and before you light me up in the comments about how my experience on this gun is limited to just this model and is only applicable to this one model, and that's completely correct. I fully acknowledge it. I bet your G3C runs like a top. But I've watched a couple other videos and seen people on the range shooting it and have this same issue we're about to discuss and just sweep it under the rug. So it's not just my model. I can think of at least 3 other videos where I've seen this gun choke on ammo, but they only did it like once or twice out of like 200 rounds. So people said that was completely acceptable. I got the one on the lower end of that tolerance because I couldn't get through 2 magazines without having a failure to extract. And as you're probably noticing now in the B-roll, I had a lot of malfunctions with this gun. I couldn't shoot all 300 rounds I had budgeted and set aside the time to do because I spent so much time trying to diagnose and get this gun to run. And it just wouldn't.
Get set, go! Long!
What ended up happening over and over again is that the extractor would skip off the case rim and the slide would run to the back and the case would stay in the chamber. That's not a big deal for brass case ammo. It seemed to pop out just fine, and the ammo that I was using was Winchester white box and Wolf steel case. So cheaper stuff that people who are buying a Taurus are likely to use for target practice. The brass ammo, as I mentioned, wasn't an issue. You could get the brass out pretty easily, but the steel case stuff stuck in there, and I had to get out my pocket knife and pry the case rim out of the chamber just because the steel would stick in the chamber. And I thought the brass was going to make it get better, but I had the same failure rates. It didn't seem to matter whether it was my reloads, the steel case ammo, or even the Winchester white box. All of it had issues out of this gun, and it was rare that I could make it through a full magazine without at least one issue. And because this thing choked on so many ball nose cartridges, I didn't even test it with hollow points. I'm assuming that it feeds them just fine, but I'm gonna call Taurus and get it sent back in. I'm gonna do this review again, hopefully with a gun that runs 100%, and we'll see where we land on that. But right now, I cannot recommend this gun because I do believe it is a liability if you were to try and carry this based on the manual safety and how the thumb rest lands. More importantly than that is just getting the case, the spent case out of the gun. I'm filming this on a Saturday. I'm gonna call Taurus on Monday and get them to take this back and fix the thing. And we'll film another one of these in a few months when the gun makes its way back to me, and we'll see where we land. As always, I appreciate you guys for watching this. I apologize that I have to give it a negative review. It's pretty rare that I have to do this. I wanted to like this gun a lot. I think it has a pretty strong value offering and it has pretty good design. So, well, better luck next time and we'll get back at you when we have the new one. I appreciate you guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care, guys.